under President Barack Obama, we've seen the government veer toward the right, unlike anything under George Bush GW. And had it happened under Bush, the left would be in an uproar. We have the Whistleblower Act, we have the National Defense Authorization Act, which allows for the killing of an American citizen anywhere in the world, including on U.S. soil. We have the NSA spying. It goes on and on and on. And the goose steps, it seems, is not an exaggeration, but in fact it is coming in sweeping waves. Our next speaker is going to be Bruce Dixon. He is the managing editor of the Black Agenda Report, and he is also a member of the Green Party, and he's our next speaker.
The U.S. empire is in crisis on a lot of fronts, and so I'm going to talk about just one of its responses to its own crisis that it's imposing on us. And to start with, I got to talk about what neoliberalism is. Neoliberalism is a word folks use a lot, but they don't define it enough. Neoliberalism has nothing to do with the liberal conservative paradigm that people are used to hearing about. Neoliberalism is the ideology that says that everything you do, everything all of us do, always turns out best when we subordinate it to the dictates of the market. That's what neoliberalism is. You may think that we are small and disconnected and disjointed, okay, and that our conversation has no power. But the empire is spending a lot of energy to make sure that we don't even have this conversation, and that this conversation goes not much further than you see it go. And this is shown nowhere more succinctly than in the struggle over the future of the internet. Okay, the internet, when it first came around, was supposed to be all the things that broadcast TV and radio ain't. It was supposed to be a way for poor people and marginalized communities to have their voices heard, and for the public conversation to belong to the public. Well, you know, it hasn't turned out that way. The big dogs run the internet too, just like the big dogs run, broadcast media. And when Barack Obama ran for president, he said he would take a backseat to nobody in protecting the availability of the internet. That was called network neutrality back then. The availability of the internet to everybody. Well, of course, like so many promises, that one, went away as soon as my boy got elected. And now the Obama's, he appointed a lobbyist to head the FCC, and now he's replaced that with another lobbyist. And this one has proposed fast lanes and slow lanes in the internet. And that's a deceptive way of looking at this. They're proposing fast lanes and slow lanes in the internet to be determined, whose character and speed are going to be determined by market logic alone. What that means in practical terms is that if your content does not generate enough money for you to pay the owners of the internet enough, then they can slow it down. That's what that means. Right now, I was around when the internet started. The phone companies were really upset that they were not able to charge for local versus long distance email and local versus long distance internet. Now they'll be able to do that. All they'll have to say is that, well, it's the market thing and we own the internet and this makes sense. You want to receive an email from Canada? There's an international surcharge on that. You want to forward something to 20 people? Well, there's a surcharge on that. You want to receive an email from Turkey or West Africa? Well, your first dozen are free, but after that, I don't know, And this is about to, this fast lane and slow lane thing is a foot in the door, and it will result in the total privatization of the internet, and it will restrict our ability to communicate with each other forever. We will be reduced to standing on the corner, passing out pieces of paper. That's where we're going to be if this goes on. So if you think that your conversation has no power, okay, then why are they going to all this trouble to shut it down? Right now, the way it is, the FCC met on May 15th, and they threw everything down to a 60-day comment period. And 3.2 million, I think, people have already told the FCC that, hell no, we totally object to this. We need a free internet. The internet ought to be, in many cases, it ought to be a utility. It ought to be a right. But the FCC is really not listening. They're aggressively not listening. They're determined to try to put this through. And now we're at the point where if we don't make some public noise, if we don't have city councils saying, you know, we need to guarantee the availability of broadband to everybody who wants it, if we don't have people, you know, assembling it, you know, 10 or 15 people at a time assembling it at their congressman's office and say, you know, wait a minute, you got to do this, you got to meet with us, you got to do this. If we don't have public noise, then we're going to have a big problem. I'm in Atlanta. I'll bet you a mortgage payment that we can get 300 people in the room during the last week of that comment period, and I challenge some of you to do likewise. And if you want to talk to me afterwards, I'll furnish you with any material you need. So will this guy here. He's from freepress.net. And so that's how scared the empire is now. They don't even want you to talk to each other. They're about to steal your ability to communicate with each other. Okay? Now, as for the crisis in Black America, if you read Black Agenda Report, we spend a lot of time talking about the president. So, right now, for the next 5 minutes, I'm not going to talk about the president. Okay? I'm going to talk about the Congressional Black Caucus. Okay? The Congressional Black Caucus was founded in 1971. By 1981, there had been a fair number of staffers who passed through the CBC. What did the staffers of white congressmen do? What do they do, y'all? Come on. Lobby. They lobby. Okay? By the 80s, there was a half a platoon of former black staffers. And they did the same thing. They called themselves the Second Wednesday Group. And now, 35 years later, they're called the Washington Governmental Relations Group or something like this. It'll be an article we do next week. But they're called the Washington Public Relations Group. And they are an extremely numerous and powerful tribe. And they are playing key roles in the rightward flight of the Democratic Party under the Obama administration. Anybody here ever look at that thing, Scandal? I'm proud to say I've never looked at it, but I heard about it, okay? The girl in Scandal, she's a player, right? And how do you be a player? You be a player by making deals. If you can't make a deal, you're not a player. If you're a black congressperson and you're standing up for the oppressed all the time and taking stands, then your stands are going to be predictable. Okay, and if you're predictable, then you can't make deals. You're not a player. So these staffers and their bosses have put themselves in the position of making deals. And every time the bankers need something, for it to really move, they need Republicans and they need Democrats. Now, the Black Caucus also has a habit of voting as a bloc. So they'll defer to the half dozen CBC members who supposedly know a lot about banking, or supposedly know a lot about agriculture, or supposedly know a lot about telecommunications, or supposedly know about something. But each one of those groups is mostly advised by and lobbied by this group of former black staffers on Capitol Hill who are in the pay of corporate America. So corporate America, the banksters, have been able to leverage a key block of the Black Caucus to get the whole Black Caucus, or large amounts of the caucus, to vote for privatization of the internet, privatization of broadband, of airwaves, banking reform that's about to undo Glass-Steagall, largely already has, and they have provided the key democratic support for this, so that these measures can have bipartisan support and pass through without notice and without fuss. So, so when we talk about how the moral compass, the political compass of our black political class is gone, and it's now become a corporate compass, these actors, this empowered class of staffers and lobbyists and aspirants, they have been able to leverage the moral authority of black political striving over the last few decades for the purposes of corporations. And that's why you're getting this privatization of the internet. That's why a few years ago they transitioned from digital to analog TV. Now, in a just world, it turns out that analog TV takes 8 or 10 times the frequency to broadcast one channel. So now when they went to digital, that means that 4/5 of the frequency spectrum suddenly became open. Hey, Jerome, this man here is part of Project South. He's one of the founding board members of Project South. Have I got that right? Did they offer you a TV station? No, they didn't. Okay. They didn't offer this to anybody. But they could have. The original owners of ABC, NBC, CBS were just the white boys in the room when they carved up the frequencies. That's all it was. Okay? That's all it was. In places like Venezuela, community organizations, unions, churches had their own TV channels. So they could have done that back in 2007 and 2008 and 2009, and some of you would have TV channels right now. But they didn't. Instead, they established a property right in broadcast by buying them, the station owners, they didn't have content to fill these channels any damn way. So the federal government established a property right by buying the stuff from them, compensating them for property that wasn't theirs. How can the broadcast spectrum be property, right? Who invented the broadcast spectrum, y'all? Nobody. It's part of the cosmos, right? It was here before planet Earth, okay? So they established a property right from them by buying it, and then they auctioned the frequencies off to Verizon, AT&T, and now under the legal structure, once you make something public property, it's sacred, and you can't touch it. So, and your black congressmen made this possible. They were a major reason why there was no public outcry. And the fact that they are lobbied by their former staffers, who are part of this black political aspirant class, who's been empowered even more by our black president, who I said I wasn't going to talk about her name. And so that's the crisis of black America right now. We're in a corner, and this is the end of black politics as we imagine we've known it. That enough of a crisis for you?